Jack was a man who liked things simple. He was a mechanic by trade, the kind of person who enjoyed fixing things more than talking about them. Out in the far reaches of space, at a quiet little outpost that hardly anyone ever visited, Jack found peace in the steady hum of machines and the endless stars. His days were mostly the same: check the engines, repair what was broken, and make sure everything was running smoothly. He liked it that way. But one day, his routine was shattered by something entirely unexpected. It started like any other day. Jack was in the workshop, working on an old cargo hauler that had seen better days. The ship's owner had promised to come back for it months ago, but Jack wasn't holding his breath. Out here, people often forgot things, or they just didn't come back. Space was big and life was uncertain. As he wiped his greasy hands on a rag, something caught his eye through the workshop's large window. A ship was coming in fast, far too fast for the usual cautious approach. Jack frowned and set down his tools, stepping closer to the window to get a better look. The ship was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Sleek and smooth, it seemed to glide through space rather than fly. Its surface shimmered with colors that shifted and changed like liquid metal. There were no visible markings, no insignia to tell him where it came from or who might be inside. Jack's heart quickened with a mix of curiosity and unease. He watched as the ship slowed down abruptly, almost as if it had just remembered that it needed to land. It hovered above the ground for a moment, then gently descended onto the landing pad with a soft thud. Jack could see the landing gear extend as it touched down, as smooth and silent as a cat. Whoever was flying that thing knew what they were doing, or at least their ship did. Jack took a deep breath and grabbed his tool belt. Whatever this was, it wasn't the usual cargo hauler or rusty freighter he was used to. He walked out of the workshop and towards the landing pad, his boots crunching on the gravel beneath him. The air was still, almost too quiet, as if the outpost itself was holding its breath. As he approached, the ship's hatch opened with a soft hiss, and a ramp extended to the ground. Jack stopped a few feet away, waiting to see who or what would come out. For a moment, there was nothing but the faint hum of the ship's systems. Then figures began to emerge. Jack's eyes widened as he saw them. They were tall, taller than any human he had ever met, and their skin shimmered with the same iridescent glow as their ship. Their features were delicate, almost ethereal, with sharp eyes that glinted with intelligence. They moved with a grace that seemed almost unnatural, as if they were floating rather than walking. There were 3 of them, all women, or at least that's what Jack assumed based on their appearance. They wore sleek, form-fitting suits that looked like they were made of the same strange material as their ship. As they stepped down the ramp, they looked around, taking in their surroundings with an air of quiet confidence. Jack swallowed hard, suddenly feeling very small and out of place. These weren't just any aliens. These were people from a civilization far more advanced than anything he had ever known. He had heard stories about such beings, but he had never expected to meet any out here, in the middle of nowhere. One of the women, who seemed to be the leader, approached Jack. Her eyes, a deep shade of violet, locked onto his with an intensity that made him want to look away, but he didn't. She stopped a few feet in front of him and tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You are the mechanic here?" she asked, her voice smooth and melodic, yet carrying an edge that suggested she wasn't used to being questioned. Jack nodded, finding his voice after a moment. "Yes, ma'am. Name's Jack. What can I do for you?" The woman glanced back at the ship, then returned her gaze to Jack. "Our ship has suffered damage. We require your assistance to repair it." Jack nodded again, trying to appear calm even though his mind was racing. "I can take a look. What seems to be the problem?" "The propulsion system is failing. We need it repaired as soon as possible," she replied, her tone making it clear that this was not a request, but an order. Jack didn't argue. He had dealt with all sorts of people in his line of work, and he knew better than to challenge someone who clearly wasn't in the mood for small talk. "I'll get started right away. It might take some time, though. I've never worked on a ship like this before." The woman gave a small nod, acknowledging his words. "We understand. Do your best." With that, she turned and rejoined the other 2 by the ship, leaving Jack to his thoughts. He took a deep breath and walked up the ramp into the ship, his heart pounding in his chest. As he entered, the interior of the ship took his breath away. The walls were lined with smooth, glowing panels, and the air was filled with a faint, pleasant scent he couldn't quite place. Jack knew this was going to be the most challenging repair job he had ever taken on. But as he looked around at the incredible technology surrounding him, he couldn't help but feel a thrill of excitement. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he wasn't about to let it slip through his fingers. He rolled up his sleeves, ready to dive into the unknown. Inside the alien ship, Jack felt like he had stepped into another world. The interior was unlike anything he had ever seen in his years of working on spacecraft. The walls seemed to glow with a soft, shifting light that changed colors as he moved. The air was cool and carried a faint, sweet scent that was calming, yet unfamiliar. Every surface was smooth and seamless, as if the ship had been grown rather than built. Jack walked slowly down the narrow corridor, his eyes wide with wonder. He had seen a lot of ships in his time, from rusty old freighters to sleek military vessels, but nothing had prepared him for this. The design was elegant, almost organic, with curves and shapes that flowed together perfectly. There were no sharp edges, no visible bolts or seams, just smooth, flowing lines that gave the ship a sense of quiet, living grace. He reached the end of the corridor and found himself in what he assumed was the main control room. The room was circular, with a large curved console in the center. The walls were lined with panels that displayed streams of data in symbols Jack couldn't understand. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. This was way beyond anything he had worked on before, but he was determined to figure it out. As Jack approached the console, the alien woman who had spoken to him earlier entered the room. She moved silently, her presence almost ghostly in the dim light. She watched him with those sharp violet eyes, studying his every move. "This is where the problem is," she said, pointing to a section of the console. Her voice was calm, but there was an underlying tension that told Jack this was serious. Jack nodded, focusing on the task at hand. He leaned over the console, examining the controls. The symbols made no sense to him, but he could see that something was wrong. The lights on one side of the console were flickering, and there was a faint, irregular hum coming from somewhere deep within the ship. "What kind of propulsion system does this ship use?" Jack asked, trying to get a better understanding of what he was dealing with. The alien woman hesitated for a moment before answering. "It is a quantum drive. It allows us to travel faster than light by bending space around the ship." Jack blinked, trying to process what she had just said. He had heard of theories about quantum drives, but they were just that, theories. No human had ever successfully built one, let alone seen one in action. Yet here he was, standing in front of a real, working quantum drive, and it was his job to fix it. "All right," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm going to need to access the drive itself. Can you show me where it is?" The woman nodded and gestured for him to follow. She led him down another corridor, this one narrower and darker than the last. The walls here seemed to pulse with a faint, rhythmic light, almost like a heartbeat. Jack could feel the ship's energy all around him, like a living presence. They arrived at a large, circular door that slid open silently as they approached. Inside was a massive chamber, dominated by a glowing, crystalline structure that hovered in the center of the room. The structure was intricate, with countless facets and angles that caught the light in strange, mesmerizing patterns. It pulsed with a soft blue light, and Jack could feel the power emanating from it. "This is the quantum drive," the woman said, her voice almost reverent. "It is the heart of our ship. Without it, we cannot continue our journey." Jack walked up to the drive, feeling a mixture of awe and trepidation. He had never seen anything like this before. The closest thing he could compare it to was a fusion reactor, but even that was a crude comparison. This was something far beyond human technology, something that shouldn't even exist. He carefully examined the drive, looking for any signs of damage or malfunction. As he moved closer, he noticed that one of the facets was cracked, and a small amount of energy was leaking out, causing the flickering he had seen earlier. The crack was tiny, but in a device as complex and powerful as this, even a small flaw could be catastrophic. "I see the problem," Jack said, pointing to the crack. "This needs to be repaired, or the drive could fail completely." The woman nodded, her expression serious. "Can you fix it?" Jack hesitated. He was confident in his skills as a mechanic, but this was something entirely new. He wasn't sure if his usual methods would work on this kind of technology. But he also knew that he couldn't just walk away from this challenge. "I'll do my best," he said finally, "but I'm going to need some help." I don't have the tools or materials for something like this. The woman nodded again and spoke into a small device on her wrist. A moment later, the other two alien women entered the chamber, carrying strange-looking tools and containers filled with shimmering, liquid-like material. "This is what you need," the leader said, handing him one of the tools. "It will bond with the drive's structure and repair the crack. But you must be careful. If the energy flow is disrupted, it could cause a chain reaction." Jack took the tool, feeling the weight of the responsibility that had just been placed on his shoulders. He had never worked with anything like this before, but he wasn't about to back down now. He took a deep breath, steadying his hands, and began the delicate process of repairing the drive. As he worked, the room was silent, except for the soft hum of the ship and the occasional click of the tool against the drive's surface. The alien women watched closely, their eyes never leaving him. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his focus, his hands moving with the steady precision that had served him well for years. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the crack was sealed. The drive's light grew brighter and steadier, the flickering stopped, and the hum evened out into a smooth, constant rhythm. Jack stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's done," he said, letting out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The leader of the alien women stepped forward, her eyes shining with relief and gratitude. "You have done well, Jack. You have saved our ship." Jack smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Glad I could help. But I have to say, this is unlike anything I've ever worked on before." With the ship's quantum drive repaired, Jack expected the alien women to be eager to leave. After all, they had seemed tense and urgent about fixing the problem. But instead of taking off immediately, they invited Jack to join them for a meal. It was an offer he hadn't expected. But after the intense work, he was curious to learn more about these mysterious travelers. They led him to a spacious room that seemed to serve as both a dining area and a meeting place. The walls were the same smooth, glowing material he had seen throughout the ship, but the light here was warmer, more inviting. A low table sat in the center, surrounded by cushions rather than chairs. Jack noticed that the table was already set with strange-looking dishes, filled with colorful foods that shimmered under the light. The leader of the group, the one with the deep violet eyes, gestured for Jack to sit. "Please join us," she said, her voice as calm as ever but with a touch of warmth that hadn't been there before. "You've earned this." Jack sat down on one of the cushions, which was surprisingly comfortable, and looked at the food before him. He had no idea what any of it was, but the smells were rich and enticing. He picked up what looked like a small purple fruit and took a cautious bite. The taste was sweet and tangy, like nothing he'd ever eaten before. The woman gave him a rare, small smile. "You are unlike anyone we have ever met, Jack. Perhaps that is why you succeeded." Jack felt a warmth in her words, a recognition that went beyond just fixing a machine. It was the beginning of something more, a connection between two very different worlds. And though he didn't fully understand it yet, Jack knew that this was just the start of an adventure far greater than anything he had ever imagined. "This is good," he said, nodding appreciatively. "What is it?" The woman across from him, who had soft blue eyes and a gentler presence, smiled. "It's called Xyloth. It grows on our home planet. We thought you might like it." Jack nodded, feeling a bit more relaxed. "It's delicious. Thank you." The third woman, who had remained mostly silent up until now, spoke up. Her eyes were a striking green, and she had a sharp, analytical look about her. "You seem very resourceful, Jack. We didn't expect a human to be able to repair our quantum drive so quickly." The leader, who Jack was starting to think of as the captain, nodded. "Our technology is very advanced, yes, but your ability to adapt and solve problems is what impressed us. Your methods are different from ours, simpler, but no less effective." Jack smiled, feeling a sense of pride. "Well, sometimes simple is all you need. I guess we humans are good at making do with what we've got." The captain tilted her head slightly, studying him again with those penetrating violet eyes. "Tell us more about your people, Jack. We have heard stories, but they are often incomplete or biased. What is it like to live as a human?" Jack paused, considering how to answer. It was a big question, and he didn't want to give them the wrong impression. Well, he began slowly. "Humans are complicated. We're curious, always looking to learn and explore. But we're also stubborn, and sometimes we don't always get along with each other. We've done some amazing things, like building ships that can travel through space. but we've also made our share of mistakes. The woman with the green eyes leaned forward. Mistakes? What kind of mistakes? Jack sighed. Wars, mostly. Conflicts over resources, territory, and sometimes just differences in belief. It's one of the things we're not proud of, but it's part of our history. We're still learning, still trying to figure out how to live peacefully with each other. The room grew quiet for a moment as the alien women considered his words. Then the captain spoke again, her tone thoughtful. We, too, have known conflict. Our people were once divided, much like yours. But we found a way to unite, to work together for the greater good. It was not easy, but it was necessary. Jack nodded. I think that's what we're trying to do. It's just taking us a bit longer. The woman with the blue eyes smiled gently. You have a strong spirit, Jack. That's something we admire. It's what allowed you to repair our ship when others might have failed. Jack felt a warmth in his chest at their words. He had never thought of himself as particularly special, just a mechanic doing his job. But these women saw something in him that he hadn't seen in himself. So, what about you? Jack asked, wanting to shift the focus. Where do you come from? What's life like on your planet? The captain exchanged a look with the others, and for a moment, Jack wondered if he had asked something too personal. But then she nodded as if making a decision. Our planet is called Xylaria. It is a world of great beauty with vast oceans and forests that stretch for miles. Our society is built on cooperation and respect for all living things. We have advanced technology, yes, but we do not rely on it for everything. We value simplicity, much like you do. Jack listened intently, picturing the alien world in his mind. It sounded like a peaceful place, almost like a utopia compared to the struggles humans faced back on Earth. And your journey? He asked. What brings you all the way out here? The captain's expression grew more serious. We are explorers, much like your people. We seek out new knowledge, new experiences, but we are also on a mission to find a new home. Our planet is dying slowly but surely. We are searching for a place where we can begin again. Jack felt a pang of sympathy. He couldn't imagine having to leave behind everything he knew, everything he was connected to. I'm sorry, he said softly. That must be hard. The captain nodded. It is, but it is also necessary. We cannot allow our people to perish. We must find a way to survive. Jack felt a deep respect for these women, who carried such a heavy burden with such grace. They were not just travelers, they were the hope of their entire species. We're not so different, you and I, Jack said, realizing it as he spoke. We're both just trying to find our place in the universe, trying to make the best of what we have. The captain gave him a small, approving smile. Yes, Jack, perhaps that is why our paths crossed. There is much we can learn from each other. As they continued to share stories and experiences, Jack felt a bond forming between them. It wasn't just about fixing a ship anymore. It was about understanding each other, about finding common ground in a vast, often lonely universe. And in that moment, Jack knew that this meeting, this exchange, was the beginning of something far greater than any of them could have imagined. After their meal, Jack felt a sense of camaraderie with the alien women. They had shared stories, exchanged ideas, and found common ground, despite their different origins. But just as things seemed to be settling into a comfortable routine, a new problem arose, one that threatened to undo all the progress they had made. Jack was back in the ship's control room, running a final check on the quantum drive to ensure that the repairs he had made would hold. The alien women had given him access to more of the ship's systems, and he was starting to understand how things worked, at least as much as any human could with such advanced technology. But as he was reviewing the data, something caught his eye. A warning light flashed on the console, accompanied by a low, ominous hum. Jack frowned and tapped a few buttons, bringing up a diagnostic report. The symbols on the screen were still mostly unfamiliar to him, but the red alerts and flashing indicators told him all he needed to know. Something was seriously wrong. The captain, who had been observing from a distance, immediately noticed the change in Jack's expression. She moved to his side, her violet eyes narrowing as she scanned the console. "What is it?" she asked, her voice tense. Jack took a deep breath, trying to keep his own worry in check. "It looks like there's a major power fluctuation in the ship's core systems. The quantum drive might be stable for now, but there's something else going on, something big." The captain's eyes flickered with concern. "Can you identify the source?" Jack shook his head. "Not yet. I'll need to dig deeper into the systems to figure out what's causing it. But if this isn't fixed soon, it could lead to a complete power failure, or worse. The gravity of the situation hit them both at the same time. The ship was the lifeline for the alien women, their only means of survival in the vastness of space. A power failure wouldn't just leave them stranded. It could mean total destruction if the quantum drive went critical. Jack knew this was beyond a simple repair job. This was a crisis that required immediate action. The captain turned to the other women, who had gathered at the entrance to the control room, sensing the urgency. "We need to isolate the problem," she said, her voice firm. "Jack, can you work with Alara to trace the power fluctuations? I will coordinate with the others to manage the ship's systems and prevent any further damage." Alara, the woman with the sharp green eyes, stepped forward. She nodded to Jack, her expression serious. "Let's start with the main power conduit," she suggested. "If there's a fault in the energy distribution, that could be the source." Jack agreed, and they quickly moved to a different part of the ship. The corridors seemed darker now, the glowing walls dimmed as the ship's energy reserves struggled to compensate for the malfunction. Jack could feel the tension in the air. This was a ship on the brink of a major breakdown, and they were racing against time to stop it. They reached the main power conduit, a massive structure that ran through the heart of the ship. It was a complex network of cables, nodes, and energy cells, all interconnected in ways that were far beyond human engineering. Jack could see the faint flicker of unstable energy coursing through the conduits, like a pulse that was growing weaker with each passing second. Alara handed him one of the advanced tools they had used earlier. "We need to stabilize the flow before it destabilizes the entire system," she said. "But be careful. Any mistake could cause a chain reaction." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of the responsibility. He had faced tough repairs before, but this was on a whole new level. He studied the conduit, his mind racing as he tried to figure out the best approach. The tool in his hand was sophisticated, but it required precise control, something that wasn't easy with a system this sensitive. As he began to work, he could feel the energy crackling beneath his fingers. The tool hummed softly as it interfaced with the conduit, sending streams of data to his handheld display. Alara monitored the readings, her eyes flicking back and forth between the display and the conduit itself. "There's a major surge in the secondary power node," Alara pointed out, her voice tight with focus. "We need to divert it before it overloads the entire grid." Jack adjusted the tool, carefully rerouting the energy to a different part of the system. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he worked, his hands steady but his heart pounding. The conduit groaned under the strain, the unstable energy fighting against his attempts to control it. He could feel the heat rising, the power threatening to spiral out of control. "Almost there," Jack muttered, his focus narrowing to the task at hand. He could see the energy levels slowly stabilizing, the wild fluctuations beginning to smooth out. But just as he was about to complete the reroute, a sharp, jarring sound echoed through the conduit. A burst of energy shot out, sending a shockwave through the ship. Jack was thrown back, the tool flying from his hand as he hit the wall behind him. The ship shuddered violently, the lights flickering before plunging into darkness. Alara was at his side in an instant, helping him to his feet. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice urgent. Jack nodded, though his body ached from the impact. "I'm fine, but the conduit is holding, but just barely," Alara interrupted, her eyes wide with concern. "We need to get back to the control room and stabilize the main systems before we lose everything." They hurried back through the darkened corridors, the ship's failing systems casting eerie shadows as they passed. When they reached the control room, the situation had worsened. The captain and the other woman, who had blue eyes, were frantically working at the console, trying to keep the ship's systems from collapsing entirely. "We've lost primary power in several sections," the captain reported as soon as Jack and Alara entered. "The quantum drive is still stable, but it's drawing too much energy. If we don't redistribute the load, it could trigger a core meltdown." Jack's mind raced. They needed a solution, and fast. "What if we shut down non-essential systems?" he suggested. "Divert all remaining power to the core and the quantum drive. It'll buy us time to make more permanent repairs." The captain considered his suggestion, then nodded decisively. "Do it. Alara, assist him. We need to keep this ship together." Working quickly, Jack and Alara began shutting down systems across the ship, rerouting the remaining power to the critical areas. The lights dimmed even further, and the ship's hum grew softer, but the readings on the console showed that the core and quantum drive were stabilizing. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was enough to prevent a disaster. For now. As the immediate danger passed, the captain turned to Jack, her expression one of deep gratitude. "You've saved us again, Jack. But this ship is still in danger. We need to find a way to restore full power before we can continue our journey." Jack nodded, already thinking ahead. "We'll figure it out. Together." The captain gave him a rare, approving smile. Yes, together. But even as they began planning their next steps, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The ship was stable for now, but it was clear that something deeper was wrong, something that might take more than just a quick fix to solve. And as he looked at the alien women, each of them determined to keep their mission alive, Jack knew that failure wasn't an option. They were depending on him, and he wasn't about to let them down. In the dimly lit control room, the atmosphere was tense. Jack, Alara, and the captain huddled around the main console, the flickering screens casting eerie shadows on their faces. The ship was stable for now, but the damage was extensive, and the situation was far from resolved. "We've managed to stabilize the core and the quantum drive," the captain said, her voice calm but strained. "But the power grid is still failing in several key areas. We need to find a long-term solution, and fast." Jack nodded, his mind racing as he reviewed the data on the console. It's clear that the problem is more than just a simple malfunction. Something fundamental must be wrong with the power distribution network. Alara, her green eyes intense, pointed to a series of graphs on the screen. The fluctuations are not just random. They seem to be centered around the energy redistribution node. If we don't fix this, the entire power system could collapse. Jack glanced at the node's schematic. It was a complex web of conduits and energy cells, intricately designed and far beyond anything he had seen before. "Looks like we're dealing with a major failure point. But I don't have the right tools or materials to make a proper repair." The captain looked at Jack with a mixture of concern and determination. "We've encountered problems before, but this is different. We've never had to deal with such a critical failure in our power grid." Jack took a deep breath. "We'll need to improvise. I'll start by isolating the node and seeing if I can patch the damage. But we'll need to be careful. Any mistake could cause a cascade failure." The captain nodded, her violet eyes resolute. "Alara and I will assist you. We'll need to coordinate our efforts to keep the ship stable while you work." They quickly moved to the energy redistribution node, located in a maintenance chamber near the heart of the ship. The room was filled with the hum of failing systems and the occasional flicker of errant lights. Jack and Alara set up their tools and began the delicate process of isolating the faulty node. Jack could feel the tension in the air, both from the ship's instability and from the pressure of the situation. He worked methodically, trying to assess the extent of the damage. The node was a mess of tangled energy conduits and damaged cells, with energy spikes that threatened to destabilize the whole system. "This is going to be tricky," Jack said, his voice tight with concentration. "We need to reroute the energy flow and replace the damaged components. But first, we have to stabilize the node to prevent further damage." Alara nodded, her focus unwavering. "I'll help with the energy rerouting. We need to balance the flow and avoid any overloads." Jack and Alara worked together, carefully adjusting the energy flow and patching up the damaged sections. The work was slow and painstaking, and Jack found himself relying on every bit of his mechanical knowledge and experience. Each adjustment had to be precise, each repair flawless. Hours seemed to pass as they labored, the ship's systems groaning and shuddering with every change. The room was filled with the sound of clinking tools, the occasional burst of energy, and the steady hum of machinery trying to maintain balance. Jack's hands were dirty and his clothes stained, but he kept pushing forward, driven by the urgency of the situation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jack made the last adjustment. He stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "That should do it," he said, his voice hoarse. "We've patched the node and rerouted the energy. Now we need to test it and see if the system holds." The captain and Alara watched anxiously as Jack initiated the test sequence. The screens flickered as data streamed in, and the room was filled with the tense silence of waiting. The energy readings were unstable at first, but gradually they began to stabilize. The hum of the ship's systems grew steadier, the lights flickering less frequently. "It looks like it's holding," Jack said, allowing himself a small smile of relief. "We've managed to stabilize the power grid." The captain let out a sigh of relief. "You've done remarkable work, Jack. We were facing a critical failure, and you've managed to avert disaster." Alara nodded, her expression one of respect. "Your ability to adapt and find solutions is impressive. We couldn't have done this without you." Jack shrugged, though he felt a swell of pride. "It was a team effort. We all played a part in getting through this." The captain's eyes softened, and she gave him a small smile. "We are grateful for your help, Jack. You have proven yourself to be an invaluable asset to our mission." Jack nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. He had faced a challenge that seemed almost impossible and had come through on the other side. But even as he celebrated the victory, he knew that there was still much work to be done. The ship was stable, but they needed to make more permanent repairs and ensure that everything was functioning correctly before they could continue their journey. As they began the process of restoring the ship's systems to full operation, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had not only repaired a critical component, but had also forged strong connections with the alien women. Together, they had faced a major crisis and come out stronger on the other side. And as he looked around at the ship's restored systems, Jack knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their journey, one that would bring even greater challenges and adventures. But with determination and teamwork, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. With the ship's power system stabilized, Jack and the alien women finally had a moment to catch their breath. The tension that had filled the ship during the crisis was slowly easing, replaced by a sense of relief and quiet pride in their accomplishment. The captain, Alara, and the other woman, whose name Jack learned was Mira, were all in the control room, discussing their next steps. Jack, feeling exhausted but satisfied, was about to leave when the captain called him over. "Jack, before you go, there is something we would like to give you. It is a small token of our appreciation." Jack looked at her, puzzled. "A token? You've already done so much for me. I'm just glad I could help." The captain smiled warmly. "This is not just about help. You have shown great skill and bravery. You've helped us in ways that go beyond mere repairs. We want to honor that." She turned to Mira, who stepped forward with a small, elegant box. It was made of a smooth, metallic material that glowed softly, reflecting the ambient light of the control room. Mira opened the box to reveal a beautifully crafted pendant. It was a delicate piece of jewelry with intricate designs and a shimmering stone at its center. "This is a Hycerite pendant," Mira explained, her voice gentle. "It is a rare artifact from our home planet, Xylaria. The stone is said to have unique properties. It can enhance the wearer's senses and provide protection." Jack's eyes widened as he examined the pendant. The stone was a deep, iridescent blue, changing color as it caught the light. The design was complex and elegant, with swirling patterns that seemed to move and shift. "It's beautiful," Jack said, genuinely impressed. "But why are you giving it to me?" The captain's expression was serious but kind. "We believe that you deserve something special for what you've done. This pendant is not just a gift, it is a symbol of our gratitude and respect. It is also a token of our trust in you." Jack took the pendant, feeling its weight in his hand. It was cool to the touch and felt surprisingly comfortable. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." Alara smiled. "You don't have to say anything. Just know that it is given with deep appreciation." The captain nodded. "We have also decided to share more about our journey and our mission. You have earned our trust, and we want you to understand what lies ahead for us." Jack nodded, feeling a sense of honor at their gesture. "I'd like that. I want to help in any way I can." The captain and the others began to explain their mission in more detail. They were on a quest to find a new habitable planet for their people, as their home planet was becoming increasingly uninhabitable due to environmental collapse. They had been traveling for years, searching for a new world where they could start anew and ensure the survival of their species. "The journey has been long and difficult," the captain said, her tone reflecting the weight of their mission. "We have encountered many challenges and our resources are running low, but we remain hopeful that we will find a suitable planet soon." Jack listened intently, understanding the gravity of their situation. He could see the determination in their eyes and felt a deep sense of empathy for their struggle. "I'm glad I could help with the repairs, but if there's anything else I can do, just let me know." The captain smiled appreciatively. "We will certainly keep that in mind. For now, Enjoy the pendant and know that you are a valued friend to us." As Jack examined the pendant more closely, he felt a sudden warmth spread through him. It was as if the stone itself was alive, resonating with a gentle, comforting energy. He put it around his neck and felt a subtle shift in his awareness, a heightened sense of clarity and focus. "Wow," Jack said, surprised. "I can actually feel something. It's like my senses are more attuned." The captain nodded. The Hycerite stone is known for its ability to enhance the wearer's perception. It will help you in times of need, and it will also serve as a reminder of our friendship. Jack smiled, touched by the thoughtfulness of their gift. "I'll cherish it. Thank you." As they continued to talk, Jack felt a growing bond with the alien women. They had faced a crisis together and come out stronger, and now, with their trust and gratitude, Jack felt more connected to their mission than ever before. The conversation eventually turned to lighter topics, and they shared stories and laughter, enjoying the rare moment of relaxation. Jack learned more about their culture, their customs, and their dreams for the future. He felt a deep sense of respect for their resilience and their hope. As the evening wore on, Jack realized that his time with them had become more than just a series of repairs and technical challenges. It had become a journey of understanding and friendship, and as he looked at the stars through the ship's observation window, he felt a sense of optimism about what lay ahead. The pendant around his neck was more than just a gift. It was a symbol of a new chapter in his life, one that was intertwined with the fate of these remarkable beings. And as he prepared to continue his work with them, Jack knew that their journey together was far from over. There were more challenges to face and more adventures to come, but with their friendship and trust, he felt ready to tackle whatever lay ahead. Days passed, and the ship continued its journey through the vast expanse of space. The sense of camaraderie among Jack and the alien women grew stronger with each day. They worked together, sharing stories, knowledge, and even laughter. The ship's systems were now running smoothly, thanks to Jack's efforts and the team's hard work. One evening, as Jack was helping Alara in the engineering bay, the captain approached him with a serious expression. "Jack, I need to speak with you privately." Jack nodded, sensing that the conversation might be important. "Sure, Captain." "What's up?" They walked to a quiet part of the ship, away from the hum of machinery and the chatter of the crew. The captain's violet eyes were thoughtful, and her usual calm demeanor was tinged with concern. "Jack, I've been meaning to discuss something with you," the captain began. "Our mission has reached a critical point. We are nearing a star system that may hold the key to finding a new habitable planet for our people." Jack listened intently. "That sounds promising. What's the issue?" The captain hesitated, then continued. "The problem is that this star system is surrounded by a dense asteroid field. Navigating through it will be extremely dangerous. The odds of our ship making it through unscathed are slim." Jack frowned, understanding the gravity of the situation. "So what are you suggesting?" The captain's gaze was direct. "We need a pilot with exceptional skills to help us navigate through the asteroid field. Someone who can make quick decisions and handle the ship with precision. I believe you have the skills we need." Jack was taken aback. "Me? I'm a mechanic, not a pilot." The captain nodded. "I know, but you've already shown remarkable adaptability and skill. Besides, the alternative is to risk our ship and our mission by trying to navigate the field without proper expertise." Jack thought about it. The challenge was daunting, but the chance to help in such a crucial way was appealing. He also thought about the bond he had developed with the alien women and the sense of responsibility he felt toward their mission. "I'm willing to give it a try," Jack said, his voice steady. "But I'll need to train quickly and learn everything I can about piloting this ship." The captain's expression softened. "Thank you, Jack. I appreciate your willingness. We'll arrange for the training to begin immediately. Alara and Mira will assist you." Over the next few days, Jack immersed himself in learning how to pilot the ship. Alara and Mira were patient and thorough, teaching him the intricacies of the control systems and the techniques required to navigate through the asteroid field. Jack found the training challenging but exhilarating, and he was determined to master it as quickly as possible. The day of the critical maneuver arrived. The star system loomed ahead, its star shining brightly against the backdrop of space. The asteroid field was clearly visible, a swirling mass of rocks and debris that seemed almost impenetrable. The ship's crew was tense but hopeful, their eyes fixed on the view screen as they prepared for the difficult journey ahead. Jack took his place at the pilot's console, his hands steady despite the nervous flutter in his chest. Alara and Mira were at his side, ready to assist and provide guidance. The captain stood nearby, her eyes filled with both confidence and concern. "We're ready to begin," the captain said, her voice calm. "Jack, remember everything you've learned. Stay focused and trust your instincts." Jack nodded, taking a deep breath. "Understood. Let's do this." The ship slowly entered the asteroid field, and Jack's hands moved expertly over the controls. The asteroid field was as treacherous as it looked, with massive rocks tumbling through space and smaller debris scattering unpredictably. Jack's heart raced as he navigated through the field, his eyes constantly scanning for potential hazards. Alara and Mira provided real-time feedback, helping Jack make split-second decisions. The ship maneuvered gracefully, weaving between the larger asteroids and avoiding the smaller debris. The tension in the control room was palpable, but Jack remained focused, his training guiding him through each twist and turn. Time seemed to stretch as they made their way through the field. Each moment was a test of skill and precision, and Jack felt the weight of their mission resting heavily on his shoulders. The asteroid field was a chaotic dance of rocks and shadows, but Jack's determination and concentration kept them moving forward. Finally, after what felt like hours, the ship emerged from the asteroid field. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief as the space ahead cleared, revealing the star system in all its glory. The ship had made it through the perilous field unscathed. The captain approached Jack with a look of admiration. "Well done, Jack. You've proven yourself to be more than just a mechanic. You've shown great skill and bravery." Jack smiled, feeling a rush of accomplishment. "Thank you, Captain. I couldn't have done it without Alara and Mira's help." The captain nodded. "We're grateful for your support. Now, we can continue our mission and explore the star system. We're one step closer to finding a new home for our people." As the crew began to celebrate their successful navigation, Jack felt a profound sense of pride and fulfillment. He had faced a life-changing challenge and risen to the occasion. The experience had not only tested his abilities, but also deepened his connection with the alien women and their mission. Looking out at the stars, Jack realized that this journey was more than just a series of repairs and tasks. It was an adventure that had transformed him, and it had opened up new possibilities for his future. He had made a choice that would impact not only his own life, but also the lives of the alien women and their entire species. And as the ship continued its journey through the cosmos, Jack knew that there were still many challenges and discoveries ahead. But with the support of his new friends and the strength he had found within himself, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead.